Hello and welcome to Brandon Smith Rugby. This weekend is an exciting week for all American rugby fans as Major League Rugby Season 4 kicks off this weekend. On today's video, I was joined by the guys from the Rugby Rant podcast to discuss and preview the Western Conference, taking a look at each team, taking a look at key players, their stats throughout the years, and what can we expect from them going into this fourth season. As always, if you're new here, do subscribe. Part 2 will be out tomorrow for the Eastern Conference. Big thank you to the guys at the Rugby Rant podcast. They cover all things American rugby from MLR all the way up to the USA Eagles. There'll be a link to what they do down below. Do go down below, click on that link and give them a follow. Anyway, let's jump in straight to the preview, starting out with the Austin Gilgronis. Played 8, won 3, lost 5. 29 season was to put it blunt, a shit year for them. 16 games played, 0 wins, 16 losses, finished 9th. Then last season, only played 5, obviously, because the season was curtailed, but only won 1, lost 3, and drawn 1.
Definitely. You know, you have to realize that they had problems in their front office. Yeah. They had a change of leadership twice, which resulted in 2 different name changes. So they went from the Austin Elite to the Austin Herd for about, 5 months, right, Rob? And then to the Austin Gilgronis. And you could
about 2 weeks.
Yeah. And you can, as a matter of fact, like if you have Austin Herd gear, I'm telling you, in 10 years, it's going to be worth something because nobody even got to buy their merch. But beyond that, so once they got their front office kind of settled and with Gilchrist coming in and all that, and, he's a rugby guy. He knows his rugby, regardless of what you think of him personally. You could tell last year's team was a different team, and they won the Texas Cup. I mean, they beat their rivals in Houston. We got our boy Lerone White on that squad. We got our boy Brendan Rams, and it's guys like that that buy into a system. That's how you grind out those wins. You might not have the talent, but if you believe that you're going to beat a better opponent, and you believe that your team has synergy and works better as a team, I mean, let's be honest, that's how you win rugby matches.
Yeah. And I'm going to add one of the reasons, well, there's several reasons why I think they're going to be significant and markedly better and potentially a sleeper is I think they added quite a bit of depth to the lineup this year. But, boy, they have 3 quality 10s, Kurt Morath, Will McGee, and Morath played for Tonga. McGee, of course, the USA Eagle. They have another pretty quality fly half, and then they've got some nice youth. And then, of course, Bryce Campbell's coming on board, or is on board in the center. He's a, 38 capped USA Eagle. Patty Ryan, USA capped Eagle. Hugh Roach played for the Aussie U20s. Let's see, they have a couple capped Canadians. Frank Halai from New Zealand, Jeff Hassler, Mac Mason. So they really have a tough lineup. I wouldn't write them off.
And you want to talk betting? Prop bet, Patty Ryan hits a grubber at least once a match. My boy Patty. Yeah, my boy Patty's known to kick it for whatever reason if he thinks he can gain an advantage. And it's funny, he'll go he'll blow past people and they're surprised he's done it. I don't know how many times for Rooney, but that's a great prop bet if we can ever get that up and running.
Yeah, I saw that Jeff Hassler had signed for them, former Osprey, of course. And I obviously spent time out of the game, went back to Seattle and has now joined them. And as you said, some names, Hugh Roach there, Robbie Coetzee, I think that's how you say it. Coetzee, joining. Big pedigree of a player coming in. Move on to predictions for Austin this season. Coming to you first, Rob. How do you see them going this season?
I expect a 9-7, 10-6 at the very least. I think they could sneak out a couple other wins in there. You got to remember they're in a pretty tough side of the conference. LA is going to be, I think they're going to, for a new team, they're going to be tops. And then they also, of course, San Diego is always tough. And I think Utah has improved. So, there's going to be a couple tough wins to get into that because they're playing home and home with all the teams in their conference. But I'm predicting a 9-7, 10-6.
Okay, and for you, Scott?
I'm thinking more 8-8 because they are in the Western Conference is going to be tougher with the addition to the Giltinis and all the moves San Diego made. But I will say, and I got kind of screwed on this one. I had made an early prediction that Dallas Jackals, who were in the league up until about a month ago and then kind of took themselves away from the league, were going to win the Texas Cup. So that just blew right up in my face because they're not even in the league this year. But so I'm going to say the AGs retain the Texas Cup, and I think they're going to sweep. I think they're going to sweep the Houston SaberCats.
Okay. Well, that's exactly who we're going to move on to now, the Houston SaberCats. Looking at their record as well, it doesn't read that great either. 2018 played 8, won 1, lost 7. 2019 played 16, won 6, but lost 10. And then obviously last season was cut short, but they played 5, won 1, lost 4. Again, same question. Anything this year that makes you think, okay, that there'll be improvement this year? Or do you think that the likes of Austin improving and recruiting so well will be a big challenge for this Houston side?
I think they added a few nice pieces. Don't get me wrong. Adrian Boyson, who's a Namibian cap player, Robbie Povey, Canadian cap player, Diego Magna has quite a pedigree he's a Uruguayan cap player, I think 93 caps. Nicolo Kachashvili is a Georgian cap player, but I don't think they added the depth that a lot of other teams added around the league. Of course, Sam Windsor is a Kiwi and has tremendous boot. He's always keeping them in the game when errors are made on by their opposition. I just don't think they added to the depth. When I watched their match, was broadcasted by some of our friends via a cell phone. Between them and NOLA, it was a nice match. I think it was 14-0 at half to NOLA, 24-14 at the end. Their line out and their scrums really, really need to take shape in order for them to be more competitive. NOLA is probably one of the better line out teams because of Cam Dolan. But without those two platforms, they're going to struggle to get quality ball. And I think for that reason, I would predict a 6-10.
Yeah, I think their engine room down in the tight 5 isn't what it should be. And to be honest, in 2019 and 2020, they had a lot of injury problems. So I'm wondering if that's just, the players they're getting were nicked up, their 2019 and 2020 teams didn't look that much different. So I'm wondering now with a bunch of the changes they made, if they're going to still have those injury problems. And I think if they could stay healthy, they might be, I think 6-6 is a fair assessment, but I think they can go up to 8-8 again. The Western Conference is a tough conference. And, you're going to have to play Giltinis twice, San Diego twice, and Utah twice. And then, like I said, I think they're going to be swept by the AGs. So, right there, you could be down, 8 games out of the 4 teams I just mentioned. So I think it's going to be really tough for them.
I just want to add one piece. And I'm for an old man, I'm fanboying here. It's weird, but for Scott will tell you, and Ty will tell you as well, I love to see young players emerge. I just I get so excited when I see young guys come into the league that are coming out of college, play college, because it says something about the development of rugby in the United States, right? Bronson Tellis. Folks in the UK remember that name. He's gonna be a U.S. Eagle, and he's got the size immediately at such a young kid. I mean, this kid has no neck. He's all traps. He's a walking trapezoid. But he really showed something on Saturday last week. So I'm really interested. I'll watch Houston because I want to see how Bronson develops. And he's a great kid. He's a great kid.
Of the competition coming into the league for the first time, the LA Giltinis recently signed Matt Gitto, European champion, top 14 champion, capped multiple times for Australia, played in a Rugby World Cup final, scored in semi-finals. Is this team going to be the team that buys all the big players? Is that how the team is viewed? Does that straight away put a certain pressure on them, Scott, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because Rob and I talk about this team frequently because they've had these big splash signings. But here's the thing. They also have people that, you could talk about your Makatoes, you could talk about, your Adam Ashley Coopers. But they also have guys like the McNulty brothers out of Ireland. I believe Sean McNulty is actually USA eligible. I don't think his brother Harry is yet. They actually have Langi Hapukatu coming back and being the original iteration of pro rugby I was a Sacramento fan, and Langy was a guy I loved to see, and he came out with a lot of heat from that. And then I'm going to Glasgow and came back. If anybody has seen that documentary about the Pacific Islanders and rugby, he was a victim of that, where he went to the UK and he just didn't fit into the culture, and he had to come back, and it kind of shortened his career in professional rugby in the UK. And now he's back and has another shot. You got guys like Mika Kruse, who was a former Colorado Raptor. Who else? Nick Boyer, former Colorado Raptor. Yeah, you have
Luke White.
Rob's buddy. Luke White. Rob's buddy, Christian Rodriguez, who just got drafted and then got drafted again. And then they took DTH from Toronto, and I think that might be one of the biggest steals from the Toronto Arrows that somebody has gotten down south. That's a big one, and you got to watch out for guys like Watson Fikilitanga, the Iona guy. I watched him his whole career, being born and raised right behind Iona College. So I got to go to their matches often. He's another one of those young guys that Rob's talking about. That's going to be exciting. He's going to make exciting plays. You're going to hear his name when he gets the ball. They're flashy. They're playing in the Coliseum, which for those of you that don't know, hold, I think 75,000 people. But you know what? It fits right into the way they're doing everything. They had their preseason in Maui, Hawaii, away from everybody, away from all the distractions. It fits that big LA personality, and it fits Gilchrist personality, who owns the team. So I mean, I think it's all coming together.
I'd like to just add one piece, because Scott did a great job covering a lot of the guys. I think one of the things that people are going to miss is that folks around the league will say, well, yeah, there's lots of great guys, but they might not mesh all that well. Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, at their core is Renwick, which is an Australian club outside of Sydney. And there's a lot of guys that they brought over, that the coaching staff brought over from Renwick. There will be a lot of chemistry in this team from the get-go. Don't be shocked if they get out to a fast start.
Top of that, I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They have about 11 guys who are USA eligible. So, I mean, they're the guys who have been playing rugby in this country, in camps. They know each other. So I think sometimes people don't realize that the amount of Americans you have on a team, it's a small, tight-knit community. If you haven't played with them, you've played against them. So there is that momentum there that you guys can get as practice goes on.
Yeah, for those who maybe don't watch MLR as much as others, just running through some of the names. DTH van der Merwe, of course, played in Europe. Adam Ashley Cooper is another big name. Matt Gitto is also a big name. Adam Ash, having played in Scotland as well. So there's a lot of big names there. So predictions, could they just come into league and run away with it, do you think? Or is it going to be maybe a bit more of a challenge for them? Or do you think that just the quality on that pitch, as you both have alluded to, is going to be enough for them?
I think the quality on the pitch is going to be enough for them. Now, the first 3 games might be tough, but I have a feeling the first 3 weeks in the MLR is going to be tough for every team, just because of the way we've been able to practice, and we haven't had these preseason matches like we wanted to, or we've had 50-minute preseason matches and things like that. So I think they can win the West and be that number 1 seed out of the West. I think they go undefeated? No. I think they lose a couple early on, but then at the end of the season they can run the table.
But if I had to make a prediction for the Giltinis, I'm going 12-4. I think they're going to do quite well. I think they'll be really strong. I think they're going to compete. They're going to be in the semis. From the
well, that's the San Diego Legion. Quickly looking at their records in 2018, played 8, won 5, lost 3, but lost in semis then to the Seattle Seawolves. Heading into 2019, a very, very good year for them. 16 games played, 12 wins, 1 draw and 3 losses, and lost the championship 23-26 to Seattle in very, very dramatic circumstances. And then last year they were unbeaten 5 out of 5 before the season was cut short. Of course, the big name to join the Legion over the pandemic, of course, was Chris Robshaw. Let's come to Rob first then. Thoughts on San Diego? They've probably been one of the more consistent teams in the league, at the top, always competing. Can they keep up that level of consistency, do you think, this year?
Absolutely. It's worth noting that they lost their coach He stepped away for family reasons, but they actually have a co-coaching situation with Zach Tess and Scott Murray. Now, Zach Tess is USA Eagle, both 7s and 15s. Of course, Scott Murray was a Scotland international as well. So and they have I've listened to Test quite a bit on some other pods, and there's no doubt that is not going to be a problem with that team in terms of having, those two guys as co-head coaches. They got Cecil Africa, a notable player from 7s. It'll be really interesting if he can make the conversion. From what we're hearing, he's going to play at 15, which give him a little bit more vision to see the field and work his footwork and find some gaps in space. And one of the notable losses was JP Duplessis. I think he was a huge linchpin. He was a back of the year in the 2019 season. So he will be missed. But I think they still retain a lot of their core. They're going to be tough to beat, Scott.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you get Rob Shaw, and that's great, and that's really going to help your engine. I think one of those things me and Rob talk about this constantly, is when you get these guys coming in, they can bring a certain amount of professionalism that we're trying to get to in the United States, right? And while we have players who are, were professionals, obviously, on this team and in Europe and other places, it helps the Americans kind of come up and say, this is what we need to do. I think you're right with Cecil Africa starting at 15 is great for him. It's going to be really tough against the Seattle team. And honestly, I think I can't wait to watch Seattle play Giltinis. I got to be honest, especially that second game. I think whoever loses that first game is going to come back hungry, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun to watch this team. Just a quick word then on Rob Shaw, because of course a lot of the subscribers on the channel will be from Britain, captain of England, won, I believe, a Grand Slam, definitely won a Six Nations. What can he bring to the Legion, and how impressed have you been so far with him? And is he buying into the brand of MLR like the likes of Foden have done? Rob, what do you think?
Well, he's as Scott talked about professionalism. Rob Shaw is the ultimate professional. He knows what he's come here to do. I think he has a vision for what he wants to come here and do. As I mentioned Zach Test earlier, Zach Test talked a lot about the difference that Nonu made from the very first time he stepped on the pitch. And that's what I think Rob Shaw can do. All it's going to take is Rob Shaw to stay after a couple training sessions, to do a little bit extra skill work, to do those micro skills, to do the, that extra Bronco, or to do the extra little fitness session, and other guys will take notice. And keep in mind, again, fanboy in here for the young guys, but a kid like Patrick Madden, who I'm telling you is one of those USA kids that really has a great and bright future. And he's just a tremendous character. That's who's going to benefit from a Rob Shaw, and it's no doubt going to make he's going to have an influence, and he's going to put a stamp on that already well-developed team culture.
I think that's so true, isn't it? It's about these players coming in and saying, okay, this is how we train, this is how we eat, this is how we recover. We keep that level all the time, and that's going to help the league to grow. Predictions then for the Legion. We'll come to Scott first of all. Are they going to be challenging at the top once again? Do you think they're going to be battling with the LA Giltinis this year?
Oh yeah, I think they're definitely going to be battling with the Giltinis. They're hungry, especially after the way 2019 ended, where they lost to first of all, they played the semifinal against Rooney and they won at the death, and then they played against Seattle and lost at the death to lose that championship. So that hurt. And then to go 5-0 in 2020 and have your season cut short, where you were really kicking ass and taking names, if they don't come out on fire immediately, then there's something wrong with them internally, because I mean it's been like they've been let down so much. It's not that their play has been poor, they haven't played poorly. It's just circumstance, whoever had the ball in the last possession. So they could be a team that goes 12-4 or even 13-3, and I think they battle the Giltinis for that number one slot, and I think we could see them number one coming out of the Western Conference.
First of all, shout out to my guy in San Diego, Nate Augsburger. Awesome dude. And he'll be one of those key leaders as an American cap, the Eagle. I'm going to go with 11-5. Okay.
Looking at their record, of course, they won in 2018, having won 6 out of their 8 games. Then in 2019, 11 wins out of 16 with the 1 draw and 4 losses. But in 2020 season, bit of an interesting one. 5 games played, 1 won, 4 lost. It's a year ago, surely that won't impact them this season.
I think this is another team where they had a coaching change at the beginning of 2020. It was kind of close to the season, and Kees Lensing, who was the former forwards coach at Rooney, head coach of Old Blue Rugby Club in New York for a long time, came over, took the job there. And I think it was one of those where it was hard for him to piece together the guys and the vibe to buy in. That's what it seemed like to me through their gameplay. It seemed disjointed at times. So I think it was a combination of the coach trying to figure them out and figure out the team he had. They did have a lot of injuries last year too. So that did play a big part into what they had to get a couple guys on loan. They had to bring up some guys that didn't get the proper practice time at the beginning of the season because you didn't think they were going to need them. So I think this year is going to be a little different. I know some Seawolves fans are kind of back and forth on the roster, but I do have a feeling they're going to have a better showing this year.
Well, they've kept a lot of core pures. Guys like Matt Turner, guys like Reichert Hadding, Duratalu, Duchel. So they've got that core. I just don't know that they added the pieces that some other teams added to the roster. One thing that's notable is Scott talked about the change in coach last year. They also had a change in ownership from last year to this year. Shane Skinner stepped down. I've heard a rumor that he was forced out. I can't say that I've corroborated that with any other piece of information. It's just one source has said that he was forced out. What does that tell you? It could be something internal that's problematic. It's hard to know. So they're that enigma in my mind, and I really have a tough time putting my finger on the pulse of what that team's capable of this year. They've got a great crowd and they've got a great fan base, one of the best in the league. And I certainly hope that they provide some entertainment for those fans because they certainly deserve it.
And I think that with that core you're talking about with guys like Shalom Suniula and Andrew Duratalu, they're the old guard on that team now. They've been on that team for a while. They're USA Eagles. This is kind of their last hurrah. And Reichert Hadding also being on that team. And I think in my head, those guys don't seem the type of people or players to let a slackness at practice or people have bad reps constantly go. So I have a feeling that the team is going to police itself better this year, and you're not going to have a lot of the mistakes they were having last year. So I do agree with Rob that it's a big question mark, but I do see a lot of potential.
It's interesting because obviously they won the first two, and then they came into the third season, didn't do so well, got a reset button. So what are your predictions for them in this upcoming season? Because it's a very, very difficult Western Conference, as we've already alluded to with the Giltinis and San Diego Legion. We'll come to Rob first. What do you think they'll do this season?
I'm predicting 8-8. I think they're going to have a tough road to hoe this season.
Okay, and for you, Scott?
At the lowest, I could say 6-10, but then I can reverse that at 12-4 if some things break their way. Starfire Stadium only holds 3,800 people. I'm unsure of Washington's COVID restrictions, but when they pack that place out, the stands are very close to the sideline. It is loud. It is one of the stadiums that when you go there, they have an obvious home field advantage. Yeah. And that really is something that a lot of teams don't have in the MLR right now because of where they have to play. So that's why I think they could have a big swing on what breaks. So like I said, they can go anywhere from 6-10 to 12-4.
But that's if fans
see that. Let's then quickly jump to the final team in the Western Conference, the Utah Warriors. 2018 lost in the semi-finals against the Glendale Raptors, who are no more. 2019 then, not a great year for them. Lost 12 of the 16 games, drawing 2 and only winning 2. And then in 2020, they played 5, won 2, lost 2, but obviously the season was curtailed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Rob, give us an overview, or whoever's covering Utah, give us an overview of where Utah are at the minute heading into this season.
Well, first of all, a couple of things are notable about Utah. They've been one of the best teams about putting a product out there for fans to engage with. Like we had our guy Jerome Jordan come on our show, but he's been doing almost weekly. They had something going on with their coaching staff, putting out on social media on a Facebook Live, in which they've been able to talk about their plans coming ahead. They've been able to engage with fans. Fans were able to ask some questions, and it's been really good to see. They've also been able to play a few games too. Their academy's been able to they had some preseason games with the 404 out of ATL. I think they had some games in November. They've got plans to build a 10,000-seat multi-sport stadium that will host rugby and soccer. It's supposed to be done by they're trying 2023. But they did lose their head coach, Chris Latham, for personal reasons. So Sean Pittman and Sean Davies will take over the coaching duties. I think they're going to be a pretty solid team coming out of the West. I don't know if they're going to be one of the two teams in the finals. I just think, again, LA and San Diego are going to be, 4 tough matches for them. But they've got some pedigree back there. Paul Mullen just recently joined them, USA capped international. There's a Fijian capped international, Veremi Alawa. I probably butchered the hell out of that name. Cliven Lobster is a Namibian international. Micah Te'eo, who was with San Diego, has now come over. He has 28 caps to his name. So I think they're going to be a pretty solid team. It's going to be a tough win in Utah. And again, going back to the youth, Danny Giascoli actually played and started at fly half, which is unusual for a kid just drafted out of college, against the ATL. And I think played pretty well. His boot was, I thought his boot really put Utah into some really good situations and put ATL, especially in the first half, it pinned him into some difficult territory. So look for him to really be a star in the future of the MLR for sure.
I mean, the expectation, I think they can go 10-6. I think that's where they live at right now. It's a hard win to go up in Utah and win. It's very windy every time they play a match. Sometimes it snows no matter what the date is, even though we push back the season a month. I think you have to watch out for, obviously, guys like Mikey Teo, like Rob said. He's a cheeky veteran. He's going to be playing that fullback, and he's a really good sevens player, and he turns on the speed unexpectedly and can run past people. Getting a guy like Paul Mullen, I think fixes their tight five. He's going to start for them at prop. If you haven't seen it, I think on Rugby Pass there was a whole little thing about him. He comes from a little island off of Ireland. And he was sequestered there for the entire, COVID period after he had to leave the United States. And it was crazy. It's like a 10-mile long island. It's very small, and his parents own a bike shop there. Also check out Rodney Iona, center out of Samoa. I think he's going to do great things there. And really, I think Rob hit it on the head on who's going to start at fly half, because they have a Namibian fly half, they have a German fly half, and they have this young kid, Danny. And it's going to be a toss-up. I mean, why would you be playing the rookie in these types of situations unless you thought he was going to start?
Quickly then, we did have a quick prediction from you, Scott. Rob, how do you see them going? Again, we've spoken about the level of this Western Conference. It's going to be tough for them, isn't it? Don't you think?
I think a 9-7 would be a reasonable prediction. I think they're going to be over 500, but it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to get themselves into a playoff position.
So there we go. That was our preview for the Western Conference. As always, do let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new. And also, make sure to catch the Eastern Conference preview dropping tomorrow on the channel. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Peace.